Hey, good afternoon, Hoosiers. It's great to be here. Great to take a very short break from the city of Terre Haute. And to be quite honest, I don't normally do this. I don't normally don my Democratic armor and take time to have discussions about partisan battles, because mayors are charged with the responsibility, the same responsibility that I ask our legislators and statewide officials to follow. And that is to serve and protect and deliver for all Hoosiers. You see, I have had the privilege to travel around our state to visit with some of our rural communities, some of our cities, and Hoosiers are hurting. Utility bills are forcing Hoosiers into bankruptcy. Teachers seem to not be able to get paid. All across the state of Indiana, we brag about being a pro-business state, but we pay our workers absolute shit. And folks, it fires me up. It fires me up that we're the 7th best state in the nation at bringing talent here for college, but we're the 9th worst state in the nation at retaining college graduates. It fires me up. We have kids right now going to Indiana high schools with no path for them, no direct pipeline to employment, yet we'll take the time to talk about maps. Come on. Come on. I ask our fellow elected officials only to do one thing, and that is to speak with moral clarity, to understand what the people of Indiana truly need, to listen to constituents, to have a dialogue, and to deliver for the Hoosier people. Just 1 year ago, we had a president who stood on stage and said, "America, America, I gave my best to thee." Now it seems we have leaders who say, "America and Hoosiers, you work for me," and that is wrong. And so, in closing, there is a lot of energy in this room. There is a lot of Hoosiers in this room, and I'd ask that you do a couple of things. Go back home to your cities and towns. Have a conversation with your friends, your neighbors, your fellow churchgoers, and let them know what you heard here today. Let them know that there are leaders who are fighting for a better Indiana, an Indiana that works for all, not for a few. Let them know that there is an alternative vision to the one being forced down their throats. Change will happen, change must happen, and I ask you all to continue to support my colleagues and friends in the House and Senate. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. The next person that I have the pleasure of introducing. Some folks know him as the mayor of South Bend, where he served for not one, but 2 terms. Some people know him as a secretary. Some people know him as a father. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Pete Buttigieg! Whoa! Look at this! Well, you know how to make a guy feel right at home back on Hoosier soil. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor. Where'd he go? You know, I thought I was supposed to be the young mayor around these parts.
I guess life comes at you fast. It is good to be back on Hoosier soil. And it does have me thinking back to my mayor days. And one of the things I was thinking about is you can't gerrymander a city limit. When you're mayor, you got to go in, get work done, and stand before everybody in an election and be judged on your results. And that is how every election is supposed to work in the United States of America. That isn't just some academic principle. It is the idea that got our whole country started. It is what makes America, America. The people of this country overthrew a king and constituted a new government based on the idea that our everyday life gets better if we get to choose our leaders and hold them accountable for the job that they're doing. We are here because that principle, that foundation, is in danger. We are here because Indiana Republicans are being pressured by Washington Republicans to do something that they know in their hearts is wrong. They are being pressured to change the rules so that voters don't have a say anymore, and they know that that is wrong. And we know why they're doing it, which is because the agenda of Washington Republicans is so unpopular that even here in Indiana, they are afraid of losing if they have to run on a fair map. They know that on a fair map, if they have to run on kicking thousands of Hoosiers off of Medicaid, they will lose. They know that on a fair map, if they've got to run on their record of stripping away food stamps from hungry Hoosier children, they will lose. They know that on a fair map, if they get caught taking all the money they took out of Medicaid and giving it to tax cuts for billionaires, they will lose in Indiana just as they will anywhere else. They know that if they've got to go out in a fair election and answer for making the economy worse, less job growth, less economic growth, and higher prices than when they started, they're going to lose. They would lose on a record of putting farmers in an even harder position than they're already in by losing trade wars. They would lose on a record of killing energy projects that destroys union jobs by killing those projects and increasing our utility bills. They're not going to win on that. So even here in this so-called red state, those policies and those results are not a winning message. Those results aren't working. Those policies aren't working. Now, where I grew up, which happens to be here in Indiana, if what you're doing isn't working, you rethink what you're doing. But instead of changing their policies or trying to get better results, they decided to just try to change the map instead. But here's the thing. This is actually something that you don't have to be a Democrat or a progressive or a liberal to care about. Republicans ought to be outraged about this. Independents ought to be outraged about this. Some people say this is a divisive issue. I think this is a unifying issue because voters don't want to be cut out of this political process. I saw some of those Washington Republicans coming here saying openly that what they want to do is create a 9-0 map. Think about what that means. I don't just mean mathematically. The fact that if you just pick 9 Hoosiers at random, you'd have 4 or so Democrats in there at least, and they want to have 0 Democrats go to the Capitol. But I'm not just talking about what it means in terms of the unfairness. I'm talking about what it means in terms of cutting voters out of the process. Because if they're just going around saying it, they're just going around saying it's going to be 9-0, then what they're saying is that the results of the election won't be decided by voters at all. It'll be decided by them. They want the outcome of the election to be decided before you even get to go vote. They want this to be one of those countries where you don't even have to wait for the results to know how the vote's going to turn out. And we have a word for that. Okay, we have a lot of words for that. But the word I'm going to go with is cheating, and cheating is wrong. And I want to be abundantly clear about one thing, because they have tried to undermine our trust in the way that our neighbors run our elections in our communities. I'm not talking about changing what's inside of a machine. I'm not talking about changing a vote that went one way and making it look like it came another way. I'm talking about a form of cheating that is happening right out in the open. They're admitting it out loud, that they don't have to do that to manipulate the results of an election. When they could be in this building worrying about things like how to get the cost of living, the cost of housing, the cost of electricity, and the cost of groceries down to where it ought to be. I would call it shameless. I was going to call it shameless. But then I started reading between the lines in some of the things that our Indiana Statehouse Republican members are saying or not saying, and I realized they are in fact ashamed of what they're doing. They ought to be ashamed, and they are. They don't want to have to stand up in front of Hoosiers and say, yeah. They don't want to have to stand up in front of the people of Indiana and explain why, of all of the things they could do with the power that they have gained by being in these offices, that this is what they did. They don't want to answer for being controlled by Washington like this. And so they're hesitating. Even with all the pressure coming their way from Washington, a lot of them haven't quite committed to doing the deed. And that's where we come in. Now is our chance to talk to, yes, get a hold of your legislator, but also get a hold of your conservative cousin who knows just as sure as you do that this is wrong, and have them get a hold of their legislator. It is time for all of us to encourage our Republican friends in this state house to show some backbone before it's too late. Because they could still do the right thing. And if they do, we should give them some credit for it. I mean, it's a low bar. Refrain from cheating is a low bar. But you got to start somewhere. Because they are under so much pressure from Washington to do something wrong. If, on the other hand, they do the wrong thing, we will be here to hold them politically accountable. will make sure that they answer for bad policies and that they answer for this at the polls. Because we need to prove something that I was taught growing up in this state, which is that cheaters never win in the end. And that means working even harder to make sure we get new and better leadership, even when it's uphill, especially when it's uphill. We can push, we can press, and yes, we can win. So I've just got one question for you. Since the whole idea of this gerrymander is to make sure your voice doesn't count, are you ready to prove them wrong? Me too! So let's get out there and make sure of it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking together. Do not let up on this issue. The people are with us, and we are with the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Hey, isn't it great to have him back home again in Indiana? Yeah. And I'm Karen Talion. I'm the new chair of the state party.